Welcome to Roots and Resilience. I'm Dr. Tejal.
And I'm Dr. Nehal. We have had some incredible conversations with inspiring individuals that we feel compelled to share with you all.
Listen with an open mind and an open heart. You never know, you might just pick up a pearl that might spark something in you.
Enjoy.
Before we begin, I want to gently note that today's conversation includes discussion of infertility, pregnancy loss, and adoption. If these topics feel tender for you right now, please take care of yourself, whether that means listening later, skipping this episode, or stepping away at any point.
Welcome to another episode of Roots and Resilience. We are thrilled to have Alina join us today. She is the third culture child, mostly lived in the Gulf and Canada, and has Pakistani roots. She lives with her husband of 10 years and her 10-month-old daughter in Dubai. She's an entrepreneur and owns her own marketing agency. Alina, we're so excited to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to start talking about something, a new change in your life, Alina,
Yeah,
being a new
sure.
mom to a beautiful 10-month-old. And your journey has had its own challenges, and we would love for you to expand on that and share what led you to motherhood.
Sure. So maybe I'll zoom out a bit and then we can zoom in wherever you want because
Perfect.
there's a lot to unpack, I think. So I've been married for 10 years. I'm 38 now, happy to share my age. But my husband and I have always wanted kids. And unfortunately, I think so a few years into our marriage, we said, let's try for kids. We were lucky to get pregnant the first time around, but unfortunately, we miscarried as well at the 2 month mark. And it was just a mission trying to get pregnant ever since. We were not able to figure it out. We went to a bunch of doctors. In between, so we were in Toronto at the time. Then we moved to Dubai. We were busy setting up our new life. So we left it for a bit, maybe, up to a year. And then when we were trying again, I think it's just no luck for about 7 years. So multiple doctors just couldn't figure it out. Neither could we. We were trying to hold off on IVF until we could figure out, if there really was an issue or not. So yeah, but we decided instead to go the adoption route. IVF was actually usually it's the other way around. I think a lot of people turn right away to IVF, and adoption is a far thought that they don't really consider, or surrogacy. I'd say we went the other way around. We said if it's not working for us naturally, we want to adopt. And if adoption doesn't work, then IVF. So we were on a wait list for about a year and a half for adoption. And we were just about giving up hope. And that's when we were going to IVF clinics, and we were going to start pretty much 2 weeks later. And that's when we got the call that there was a baby for us. So I think it was a bit of a miracle. Maybe the universe, God, whoever it was, said, okay, hang tight. I got you. And yeah, the rest is history. That was in Feb of not this year. Oh, yeah, it's the new year now. So it was Feb 2025 when we got the call.
Thank you for
Wow.
thank you for sharing that, Alina. I think fertility journeys are so unique. And there is such a spectrum
Mhm.
of challenges, obstacles that people face through that. And I feel like just to go back before we talk about the adoption part
Mhm.
of it, when things were not happening over such a long period of time, how did it affect you
Mhm.
personally and
Mhm.
emotionally? And then secondly, how did it affect your relationship with your husband? Did it bring you
Yeah.
closer or did it have its own challenges?
Oh, good question. So let's talk about me first and then
Yes.
the relationship aspect of it. So look, the first few years it wasn't as big of a deal because I was still like, what was I, 28, 29, early 30s. And you just think, hey, it takes a bit of time. It's fine. We'll figure it out. But then as the years go by and you see people having their first kid, sometimes they're having their second kid, it's really hard. There were moments where, I just have to step away and go and cry. It's hard. You're happy for people. And I think this is difficult maybe for people to understand unless you've been in the same situation too. The two things can coexist at once. You can be very happy for your friends,
Yeah.
and at the same time feel like, what is wrong with me at the same
Yeah.
time? And it hurts because there's some instances in which I told people, oh, we're trying for a kid, and that person may have been single, and then I've watched them get single, engaged, married, first kid, second kid, and I'm still saying the same thing. And you're just stagnant and you're stuck. So there's a lot of guilt as well, just thinking, am I doing something wrong? And you're talking to all the doctors, all the books. So there was guilt. There was just sadness. Then we moved to a stage of, I feel like it's kind of like grief in a way, right?
Hmm.
I think there was a part of the miscarriage grief that I hadn't processed because I'm very go, go, go person. So I just moved on right away to, okay, we'll figure it out. Let's solve the
Mm.
problem. I'll move to Dubai, set that up. But there was a lot of unprocessed grief I don't think I had dealt with. So that came out in waves as well. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to get emotional too, but
No, no,
I
yeah.
think that was really tough too. So you're dealing with like grief at the same time, you're dealing with guilt. Then we moved into like denial. My husband and I think because he wanted kids so bad too, and we're just like, who wants kids? We're fine. We have such a fun life. We can like wake up we can travel whenever, sleep in on the weekend. And for a little while, we genuinely were like, we don't want kids. I think for a period of 2 years or something in between, we still said, hey, if it happens, it happens, but we're cool. So there was denial. Then I think there was acceptance. It is literally like grief. Yeah, there's acceptance at one point, which even my parents said, they're like, you can live completely full, happy, fulfilled lives without a kid. So just you do you. And I think we just come to terms with that. We were just living our lives best we could. But I think there was this kind of elephant in the room and this void in our lives that we didn't would address, but we didn't address because what's the point of talking about it so much, right? So I don't know. It's like this thing that just hung in the air at home. So yeah, I think in terms of our relationship, look, my husband and I have always been like best friends. I don't know that it brought us. I think we were close regardless. I don't know if it brought us closer. It definitely didn't move us apart. Um, I think we just feel each other's energy so much. He's a huge empath, especially. And then then it reverberates onto me too. So I think if either of us is feeling a bit sad about it, you kind of feel sad too. Um, yeah, that was the hard part in the relationship, just being like,
Wow.
your other partner's hurting, but you can't do much to help. So you're just like, let's just have fun. Let's go out. Let's
How
do
did
this.
you, and I think that's beautiful, the way you held each other during that,
Yeah.
that
Mm.
time.
Mhm.
I feel like there's a lot of people maybe having these struggles and actually it's creating a real void in that relationship
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
actually moving apart as a result. Um,
But maybe that's also because I think communication is not happening. Like sometimes people aren't opening up about how they're feeling or what they're
Yeah.
going through.
what can,
And it
what,
can,
Yeah.
so yeah, actually, yeah, what can people do
hmm,
But I think,
to
yeah.
kind of almost because these when these sensitive things happen, sometimes people aren't confident sharing it with other people. And you
Yeah.
might want to share it with the close people around you, but what can people do in your experience to help ease what they're feeling or kind of reduce that emotional burden?
get the support they
Yeah.
need.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like, again, I can only speak from my experience.
Yes.
Everybody is different. Everyone's relationship with their husband is different too. Like,
Hmm.
you can have a great relationship, but it may not look like mine. My husband and like we're the same age and we went to uni together. So we're pretty much like buddies first. And then we got married, whereas some people have like a 7 or 8 year age gap, and it might be a very more traditional like husband-wife relationship. And you don't talk to them about everything. Both of us have verbal
Hmm.
diarrhea, so talk to each other a lot. And you let the other person see you sad. And that's something that my husband said to me a lot too, where he's like, if you're feeling sad, just don't hide it from me. Just come and cry. And I would just come and cry. Like he has seen me sob and just be angry. He's like, just vent if you want. And I'm like, this is not happening, and I'm not having a kid. And I like throw things. I'm like, okay, I got it out of my. You have to let it out of your system.
Yes.
So like I can be a complete blubbering baby, and I have to let him see me like that. Like, yes, if it's like that every day, probably an issue. But you can't keep it all inside. Otherwise, it will come pouring out of you anyway. It when
Mm.
I did close off a bit more initially, it did come out random places when you're out and it's awkward and you're like, oh, or you're like a traffic light and I would just cry. I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, communicate both ways. And if you don't have that support, I don't know if you don't have that type of relationship with your husband, then there's a community, right? There's so many women going through fertility struggles. I joined some Facebook groups and stuff too, of just like infertility Facebook group, IVF circles. Not that I didn't really find much for adoption, to be honest, but infertility journeys and groups were pretty good too, just in terms of not feeling alone. You
Did you
have to
feel
talk to people.
external pressure, Alina?
No, and I'm very lucky.
Okay.
I am
Good.
probably, I think, one of the five. I don't know if this is, especially in the South Asian community, there's usually pressure from, I don't know, at least one side or both sides.
Hmm.
I
Mm.
have been really, really lucky to have a mother-in-law and in-law side who just said, don't you worry, like what you have is enough. You are great. Like God will figure things out for you. Like just don't stress. Be happy, like, keep trying. Yeah. And same with my mom. My mom actually surprised me a lot too. And it meant a lot to me when she was like, you can be a whole, happy, and complete person without children, or just like you have a great marriage and focus on that. So, yeah,
Mm.
I was lucky to have that support. And I know not everyone gets that.
Yeah.
You like that would make it 10 times worse. But I think that as long as your husband is there for you, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like you can't
Mm.
control what other family members are going to be like, but you need your husband in your corner. So,
Yeah, you
yeah.
need support. And I think sometimes, like we're all these strong, independent women. And I'm not saying we need a man or anything like
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
it's support, whether it be your girlfriends or whether it be a cousin or a
Hmm.
sister or just someone there
Yeah.
that you can share these things with. Because it's
Yeah.
true. I think when you share these struggles with someone, it halves your pain. It
It really
eases.
does. It really does. I
Yeah.
think, and I wasn't sharing as much with friends at first because, and especially most of my friends had kids, and I didn't want them to think like,
Mm.
oh, is she like, I feel bad having me and my happy family and my kids around her at the kids' birthday
Yeah.
parties. I didn't want them to feel that. So I held back too. But then I think after a little point, I gave into. I remember just calling my friend one day, being like, I was just crying. I'm like, I just need to come over and can we go for a walk? And she was just so happy too that like I did. She's like, I'm so glad you like came to me and talked to me
Yeah.
about this.
Wow.
Just
Because true friends actually, they want to sit with you in that mud. I know
yeah,
this is like I quote Simon Sinek quite a bit,
yeah.
and he was like talking about how important friendships are and how we
Hmm.
should be prioritizing them
Hmm. Hmm.
more. And actually, you build trust by asking for help,
Hmm. Hmm.
rather than offering it. So, for
Yeah,
you to reach out and asking your friend to be like, I
yeah.
need
I
you.
know I wasn't
to
used to that.
Which is
But I think
exactly,
I
which is
needed
not
it.
something we're used to. We're
Yeah.
used to being like that person to be like, oh, let me know if you need anything. Let me know if
Yeah.
I can help you. Let me. But when
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
our
yeah.
turn, like it's really uncomfortable sometimes when you reach,
100%.
putting your hand out. So well
Yeah.
done,
Thank
like
you.
really well done for doing that. And thank you for sharing that because that really
Yeah.
re-emphasizes the importance of reaching out and seeking support. And that's different for everybody, but it is
Yeah.
like, don't
Yeah.
try and
Yeah.
keep it in
Don't try
and
and do
manage
it
it
alone.
yourself. It's just
Yeah.
way too
Yeah.
big. It's way
Yeah.
too big. And the other thing
100%.
I'm going to note before we could talk more about the adoption, which I can't wait to
Mm,
talk more about,
mm,
is that actually what happens, I find, in your 30s, especially,
mm,
so if you're a woman in your 30s listening to this, is that actually people's lives, their trajectories, like just go
mm-hmm,
into way, like so many different directions.
mm-hmm,
Like I think
mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
your teens and 20s, they're fairly aligned. Like,
Yeah.
you're kind of going through the education system,
Mm-hmm.
going through work and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Maybe there's, a few marriages and and
Hmm.
then stuff. But then usually it's around late 20s, early 30s where you may
Yeah.
find you're in a boat where there's people settling down, having children, starting
Hmm.
families or
Hmm.
not. And I think it's really, really important that somehow you find this peace within yourself to make
Hmm.
peace with, you are made where you're meant to be right now.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
your journey may not look like the people
Yeah.
around you sometimes.
Hmm.
But that doesn't, like you said, doesn't mean that your life is any less fulfilling or joyful,
Exactly.
as well.
Mm.
But that takes a lot of self-work to get to
Yeah.
that point.
I would
Yeah.
also say, so I agree with that. I would also say it's very helpful to find people who are kind of in the similar
Yes.
like space as
Yes.
you. Just like for example, I have like my group of friends, right? Like you said, we were all pretty much on the same trajectory. And then you have some friends who are single, right? And then you have some people who are just married. And then you have people who have two, three kids, and
Mm.
some are living with like in-laws, whatever it is. For us, it's interesting because we were kind of in the middle where there were barely any people. We had like our single group of friends who are like, hey, we're out, we're partying, etc. And they were just going on dates and trying to find people. Then you had most of my married friends had kids. There were very few people who were like us, were like married a long time and no kids. So
Mm,
Mm.
we kind of had to find some, made a bit of an effort to find some other friends who are in a bit of a similar space.
Mm.
And yeah, selfishly, sometimes it is to make yourself feel better. Of course, you have those other friendships too, but sometimes you just need someone who's kind of in the same
who
boat
gets it? Because
as
then
you.
you just
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
just get it, or
Yeah.
But also, but
Or just
also
in a
you raise
similar
a
life
really
phase,
good
even if they're
point.
not going through fertility struggles. Maybe they don't want kids, whatever it is. I'm like, I
yes,
just
Yeah.
also need like couples who aren't talking about kids because I can't chime in. I'm like,
You can't relate
I
to it,
can't, I
right?
can't relate. I'm like, your
Yeah.
life becomes so different. I'm like, I don't know how to relate. And I did not know how to relate as much either to friends who are like, still like, oh, I've had like 4 or 5 dates like this month, and they're talking about like the single woes. And I'm like, I
Mm.
remember that too. Like I can relate because I've been through this stuff, but it's not where I am right now. And I also needed
Mm.
people who were like where I
But also,
was.
what you say there is so important because you said you had to make an effort to
Yeah.
find these people.
Yeah.
And, it's true. Like, you need to go out, you need to network, you need to speak to people. It's
Hmm.
not like people are just going to be dropped into your
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
at that time. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes people don't realize that actually you do need to make an effort to
Hmm.
go to things or,
Hmm.
find people that, like you say, you can sit with comfortably and
Hmm.
be able to chime into your lives
Yeah.
because there's so many similarities and it
Yeah.
really, really, really helps. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's actually a really, really important point. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah. No worries.
yeah. No, at the one point I thought there was like I was so happy with the friends in my life. I was like, I've got no space for new friends. Like there's a
Hmm.
waiting list now. Like it, and I genuinely I was just so happy with the lovely people. I just like I don't have more time and energy to put into
Hmm.
friendships
Hmm.
anymore. But I was so wrong and so narrow-minded to actually think
Hmm.
actually during your journey you're still gonna cross paths with people who you're
Hmm.
aligned with, who you really vibe with, who you have lots in common with, or
Hmm.
have a really good like enriching time and
Yeah.
conversation with.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just be open and
For
to
sure.
let
Because
people
some of
come
your
in and
best
out.
friends, I mean, I don't know if they're all around for you in the same city too, because I've lived I guess like I've hopped around quite a bit, and Dubai is a bit of a
Mm.
transient expat place as well. I do have some friends who are still like my closest friends and my best friends, but I'll talk to them maybe 2 to 3 times a year
Same.
because they're just living
Mm.
abroad. They're like, hey, I'm living in the States, and we leave each other voice notes and we catch up once in a while. But seasons change. You have like your daily person changes over time, like your day-to-day person based on your phase of life. And the other people can become like you catch up once a year, you love them just as much, but
Yes.
Yeah. And you still have all your beautiful
yeah,
memories and moments that you share
yeah,
together that still mean
exactly.
something to you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
exactly.
I think it's really important to add that that friendships can evolve and sometimes there
Hmm.
can be some grief attached to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
loss of something that you had
yeah.
purely because you're in
Hmm.
different parts of the world or you're
Hmm. Hmm.
geographically or logistically not
Yeah,
able to see each other as much or in different
yeah,
seasons of life is usually the most common reason.
yeah, yeah.
And sometimes there can be this element of having to process the fact that that
Hmm.
relationship has fundamentally changed and ha
Changed.
will have
Yeah.
changed, going forwards.
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean there's a complete loss, but it's just evolved and that acceptance can
Yeah,
take time. But
100%.
I want to get into
Okay.
um what I've been really, really looking forward to speaking to you about, Alina, is the adoption journey.
Mhm.
Where did you begin with it?
Yeah. So, look, I think first and foremost, it's good to talk to people who have adopted themselves.
How do you find them?
Um, you ask around in your, yeah, I guess, again, not everyone is as fortunate to have someone in their network. If someone wants to talk to me, reach out to me. I did have some people in my, actually started with one person. I have a friend whose sister had adopted from Pakistan, probably like 9, 10 years ago, but that was my starting point. So I just had a phone call with her. Um, After that, I forget, maybe there was one other person that I had talked to. So you sort of like mentally prepare yourself. You're like, okay, cool. This is sort of what it looks like. But again, mine was a bit more straightforward because I knew I wanted to adopt from Pakistan.
Okay.
Now, you have to figure out. So the first question is first, understand like, do I want to adopt? Talk to people who have adopted, right? And
Mm.
like, get all your questions out about emotions, the journey, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
Then, if you're like, yeah, I do want to go ahead with this, then you want to look at which country. For most people, I'd say if your home country allows adoptions, that's probably the most straightforward. It's the easiest because a lot of countries say we will only give to someone who is a like ethnically from our country or a citizen or a national of that country. Um, if you don't have that option, then yes, it's going to be a little bit trickier. Go online, figure it out, talk to people. So I knew for me it was going to be Pakistan. So quite straightforward. The next step, and I have a feeling this would be the case no matter where you adopt from, you have to go in person. Like, I don't
Mm.
think agencies take you seriously if you are sitting abroad and trying to apply online or just through the phone, etc. I would say you should go in person to that country and go and talk to the agency. So we made a trip. Um, when was it now? End of 2023, probably. Yeah, I think it was November 2023. We went to Pakistan. So we went to Karachi. That's where most of the adoption agencies are. And we just went and visited all of them. And pretty much all of them told us we haven't been receiving kids in years and gave us, they're like, nothing's going to happen. Like the door was shut everywhere except for one, where there's an inkling of hope, which is where we ended up adopting from. And it's where most adoptions happened anyway. So we talked to them, we did an interview, and then I would say the process from that point probably diverges based on your adoption agency. For us, also prior to that, I will say your process in a third world country versus a first world country is going to be wildly different. A, because there's going to be an actual process in a first world country. The third world country is like super opaque. There's not much transparency, and there's like you'll get different answers from different people, and you will not have clarity on timeline and next steps, and you just figure it out step by step. So they had told us, call us at 9 a.m. every Monday and ask about a baby. We're like, really? And they're like,
Wow.
yep. For a year and a half, we just called every Monday. We're like, hello, it's us. Do you have a baby? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, bye bye. And they're like, call next week. And we just did that every single Monday. And in between, we went back for another interview. Um, so it helps when you have connections in third world countries as well. This is anyone who's from India, Pakistan, they will know. Connections helps. We had a connection. They helped get us a meeting. That meeting actually at the time seemed like it was useless. We went there and they said, why are you here? We don't have kids. This is a waste of time to our face when we were actually there. I'm like, didn't your like connection set up an appointment for us? And they're like, no, we have no kids. And there's a big banner behind us saying there's no kids. Like we're not doing adoptions right now because there was a lot of like, what's it called? Human trafficking cases, etc., happening in Pakistan. So everyone was being like very like like kind of showing publicly like that nothing was happening, or they had kind of stopped. Um, so anyway, that happened. That's when I thought that absolutely nothing is going to happen for us. This was a shot in the dark, and we gave up. We still mostly gave up. We still called, but I didn't have much hope until we got the call that there is a baby girl, and how soon can you get here? Can you get here today or tomorrow? Like, hell yeah. We like, I was like working, I was on Slack, like in the middle of the day, just regular work emails, and got the call, and we're like, hell yeah, we'll be there. And then we just planned. We're like, okay, you do the flights, go grab our suitcases from storage. I'm going to go to the mall. My mom was there luckily at the time, so she went with me, shopped, threw things into a cart. I'm like, what does a baby need on ChatGPT? Give me a list. um, yeah. And then we were there the next morning to like pick up our baby girl. And the process after that is a whole other ball game. I don't know if you want to talk about that or just dive into the pre-adoption part first.
So thank you. Oh my goodness, Alina, mind is blown
It's so
right
much.
now.
I could write a book about this.
I know, and
You
I think you
should.
should.
You actually should, because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there is not enough out there about adoption
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
And so what was it that duration of time from when you first started, going out there chatting to agencies to when you got the call? Like
A
what
year
was
and a half.
wow.
Wow. How do
Yeah.
you stay motivated during that year and a half?
I really don't. You know what? Maybe talking because we had spoken to other people who had adopted from that agency too.
Hmm.
And they had said, hang in there. They
Yeah.
said it's gonna seem like nothing's happening, but trust us, it's happening. And
So
I was
what's really
like, okay.
interesting is
Mm,
I used to think, and I'm not very clued up on the
mm,
process, but if you are wanting to adopt, and I think I'm basing this
mm,
on a friend's
mm,
episode,
mhm.
um, that you know that there's somebody who's going to have a baby, and so you've got pre-warning, like a few months in advance that that baby's coming to you.
Yeah.
Um, but from what you're saying, there literally is a baby ready for collection. You're
Yes.
not forewarned about it,
Oh
or
yeah. Okay. So I need to take a step back. So there's different depending on the country, it is different. Now, if you were somewhere in like Canada or the States, I think there's three different ways. You can go through the government and the state. And because it's interesting, we had looked into it before in Canada as well, just because we were interested. We're like, out of curiosity.
yeah.
And we'd actually
Hmm.
learned
Hmm.
about it before, like
Hmm.
any of the fertility struggles and journey. Um, we had learned that, yeah, if you go through the government, it can take some time and you will not get a child who is less than like 2 or 3 years old. So they are going to be like older kids. Then option number two was a private adoption. So that's what you're talking about, I think, which is knowing that someone's going to have a kid and you privately arrange that. So you know during the duration of your pregnancy that's going to be your kid. The third, then I think abroad is the international adoption and working with adoption agency. I don't know what the age situation is there too. Um, Now, in some other countries that we looked at outside of Pakistan, a lot of the time they did say that we will only give you kids that are older, like
Hmm.
2 or 3 years of age, or they might have some medical issues, etc. There are very few countries, I think, where you can get a newborn. And we are like Nuri was 3 days old when we got her.
That's a
So
beautiful
she,
name.
thank you. Um, so in Pakistan is well known for giving you children when they are newborn, essentially. Because this adoption agency that we were going to, they, I think, hold on to the kids only for max 1 month. So it's not like they have a orphanage and like older kids. It's pretty much we get these kids and then
And did you always
whoever's
know
in
that
line.
you wanted a newborn?
I preferred it. Yeah, I preferred
Do you
it.
get that great? You
I
see
was
that
open.
phase, right?
I wanted to just experience all the phases.
Hmm.
So it's like I want to, yeah, have as much time as I can, so that I'm mostly all of her memory, and sort of like have that like emotional bond as well quite early. Now the thing in Pakistan also is that there is the way that we got Nuri too. They have, it feels sad to say, but it's called a jula. So you guys know because you're desi, but like it's a swing. It's where you can drop off a child. So it's an abandoned child
Yeah.
at night. So you do not know who the birth parents are. So we actually have no idea. So again, that's different to other countries where you would, they would come in and they'd be like, we want to give our child for adoption. And the agency has a record of who the parents are, the genetic history, the health history. They know what they do. Like you don't have any of that in, again, maybe somewhere else in Pakistan. I don't know, but definitely not here. We just knew that we're not going to have any idea about the birth parents. They also don't know. They're like, we couldn't tell you if we tried because someone just came at night and dropped her off and you can barely make out anything on the camera. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow. And how did you, sorry, Tejo, you can just see us, we're just getting so excited.
Yeah.
When you mentioned to your parents that, at what point did you even tell them that you were thinking about adopting, or was it kind of like,
Ooh.
we're doing this?
You know what? It's funny. I don't fully remember now, but I think when we went to Karachi the first time, because you kind of have to tell your parents when you're going to Pakistan, they'd be like, "Why are you going?" And I was staying with my uncle too. Like they're gonna know. You can't not tell your parents. So I think it was probably a few months prior to that. Oh yeah, I forgot one step by the way, guys. Sorry, we did a home study. So with a psychologist, it's actually on Zoom. That's all you can do. If you have someone in your city, you can do a home study. But this was someone who came referred, recommended. We did like a 10-hour home study, which is just to like mentally assess if you are like ready for adoption. And then they write a report, and that report you give to adoption agency too, so that they can know that, okay, you're serious. You've done the work, you have done the homework, you are appropriate and fit to parent an adopted child.
And the person who
So
did
we
your
did
home
that.
study, are they based in the same country as
No,
you?
they used to
Or
live in Dubai. He's in Italy now.
okay.
So that first person that I had talked to, the friend whose sister had adopted,
Yes.
I had asked her about the steps, and she said, do a home study first. And this is the
Hmm.
guy I spoke to.
So you
He's
do
not,
this privately, basically, before
yeah,
you go to the
privately. It was
agency.
through Zoom. It was like an hour session at a time, I think. So we did that over the summer in 2023. And I think that's when we sort of told our parents.
Hmm.
We were like, hey, so as you know, it's been a struggle. It's been a while. We're considering this as an option. I don't know that we were like super definitive about it just because we were like trying to ease Desi parents into this. But they were like, okay, cool, it's so funny. I think initially, luckily, again, like I said, both families are amazing, but because it's it's not like a taboo in South Asian culture. It's just not spoken of,
I
and there's
think
just
there
like so
is,
much.
if you don't mind me saying, I think there
No,
is
it's
some,
fine.
it's
Yeah,
it's like there is some undercurrent or underlying sense
there
of shame
is.
associated
Yeah,
with it, which
it's
which
like it's
it
not your
shouldn't be that.
blood. It's not your and
Which is
everything.
awful and so I think, outdated and stuff. But I
It's
can
just because there's so
imagine,
many misconceptions about it.
yes,
Yeah.
Which I'm like, it's just I don't know where it's been like fed into like our society that, like you're not going to be able to love them as much, or like they're
Hmm.
not going to love you as much. They're going to want to go and find their real parents, or like, what else have I heard before? Yeah, like what if their father was a murderer? Like, then they'll be like, you don't know what their parents are like, so maybe you're inheriting like someone with crazy genes, and you're like, it's just none of it is true.
yes,
And yes, why there's some genetic tendencies, there's nature versus nurture. It's like the
Yeah.
environment you
massive.
grow up in, right? Like how,
Especially in the formative years, right?
yeah,
Like only
exactly.
4
Like
to 6 years old.
if exactly.
Did
So,
you
so
did you get people talking about any of these myths? Like, oh my goodness, why would you do that? Did you get any of that, or did you find generally people quite supportive?
not from friends or anything. Family, yes. I would say in a again, they were still very respectful. I don't think they were
Mm.
ever rude or saying anything like they were very careful.
Yeah.
But they were like, are you sure? Just, like, beta, okay, your decision, but why don't you try? Everyone is nudging first towards IVF, and they're like trying to have your own. They're like focus on that first, and then maybe consider adoption, because there's those myths, right? A little bit of like you don't know what genes they're gonna have,
Yeah.
and
Or maybe
how they
there's
might
just
turn
fear
out.
and ignorance. Is
It's
that
fear, or
that's
like, are
And
you
a
gonna
lack of
be
knowledge.
lack of knowledge? Like, are you gonna be able to love this child? I'm like, a child again for me it was a no-brainer. I'm like, a child is a child. Like, are you gonna be able to like love this
Yeah.
child? I'm like, yeah. Like,
But also, I think adoption's so beautiful because there's so many kids like are abandoned,
okay,
and you're
so
essentially giving a
yeah.
child a chance at life.
So this is what I here's where I really think, so it makes, so to me this is a no-brainer. And I feel like it's obvious. And I feel like it was obvious to my husband and me. But I feel like 95% of society just thinks differently to us. And
Hmm.
that is, it was so clear to me that adoption makes more sense before IVF. And it does not to other people, because my thinking is you are going to put yourself under so much financial strain with IVF. People have so many failed cycles. You're going to inject yourself with hormones. You're going to be propped up on meds. You're going to do mood swings, depression, like whatever comes with it. It's like you are going to, like, you would rather put all these hormones and meds into your body and drain your bank account than adopt a child because you just want your own genetics. I'm like, that's the only reason. Like, for the most part, fine, maybe you want to experience pregnancy. I get that. You want to experience pregnancy and like breastfeeding and all of that. But by and large, people are like, no, we want like our own. I'm like, you're going to do all of that because you want your own, versus like this kid already exists in the world. There's already a kid. You're going to bring in someone new and it might not even happen, because I've seen so many bad IVF stories, versus like you can retain your mental health and your physical health and help a kid who actually needs it. Like, it was so clear to me that like that before IVF, but most people were like, no. Like, even
yeah.
families were like, no, why wouldn't you try IVF? Do like, the rounds, or what about surrogacy? People were even like, do surrogacy first because it needs to be your
Hmm.
genes. And I'm like, why are we so hung up on genes and like our
Yeah.
blood? Like, it doesn't
I
matter,
think
man.
this is a really refreshing perspective, like
Yeah.
really refreshing.
But I
Thanks for
think what's
sharing
really
it.
important is that you had clarity about what you were doing, and you're always
Yeah.
going to have people that will have a differing opinion or have their own opinion about your choices. But you and
Mm-hmm.
your husband were aligned, and I think that's the
Yeah,
most important thing. And you were following something that
exactly.
was right for both of you,
100%.
regardless of what the 95% of people
Yeah.
around
And
you
look,
may have to say.
and I'm sorry, I hope I don't mean to like offend anyone listening. If that is like really, really important to you, then that's fine, right? It's fair. Some
Exactly, it's
people,
so
Yeah.
if you
personal.
can't be, it's very personal. If you cannot be comfortable with adoption, and it's like you have to be comfortable. If you're gonna feel weird about it, then please don't go and have that child.
Yeah.
Then of course, please do IVF, surrogacy if it matters that much to you. Yes, and that's completely valid. That's your personal choice. But yeah, I wonder if more people feel like how we feel, but are too scared to say anything or voice it out loud because of the taboo in society. Because I really do think that a lot more people must be thinking the
Alina,
way
you
we
have to
are, but
write a
they
book
won't
on
say it
this.
to their family.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think maybe even if that's how you feel that way, you feel so underconfident in sharing that, and you
Mm-hmm.
somehow convince yourself that maybe what you're thinking or what you're feeling is not
Mm-hmm.
right or valid because
Mm-hmm.
everyone else around you, or maybe a lot of people around you, kind of dilute that voice inside
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
as well. And I think I want to share was there was this movie called Lion
Oh yeah, I
from
watched
years
it.
ago.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
remember
I was
I
watching
forgot
that.
in
about it.
tears at
I
the end of that.
I remember watching that in the cinema. I
Yeah.
came out, I was bawling my eyes out to my mom, and I was
Yeah.
like, how can there's so many kids so desperate in the world for love,
Mm-hmm.
for care, for the basics. And I was like, how
Mm-hmm.
can we justify bringing new life into this world when there's so
Mm-hmm.
many kids that are so desperate? And
Mm-hmm.
it was so clear in my mind. I was like, I need to somehow figure out how I can help these kids. These kids
Yeah.
can't be like living
Yeah.
fending for themselves at such a young age
Yeah.
in such vulnerable situations.
Yeah.
Like it literally,
Yeah.
when something just not even touches you, it like pierces you, like it
Mm-hmm.
really left its mark.
Yeah.
So what you're doing, Alina, and I'm sure there's other people here who may have thought about it or who have adopted, I think is just incredible.
Thank
I
you.
want to touch upon maybe some considerations you may have had with your husband, like,
Yeah.
okay, do we tell our adopted child at
Yeah.
what point that they're adopted?
Yeah.
How do we go about
Yeah.
that conversation? How do we t talk about it at school? Like, how does that how did that did any of that cross your mind?
Definitely has. Some of it we'll just have to figure out as she gets older.
Fine.
Yeah.
Um, taking it as it comes. So again, we're lucky also that I actually have a friend who is adopted, as well. So I actually sat and talked to her too. I was like, how do you feel? She's like, I feel fine. I'm happy. I'm like, okay, great. So she's actually, so ethnically, she is South Korean, but she was adopted by Danish parents. So she's essentially Danish, grew up in Denmark, etc. Now she's here. And I also asked her to like emotionally, like, how do you feel? She's like, I don't have like, that's my mom and dad. This is my family. Like, I grew up totally emotionally stable, happy, you know. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And then I asked her, I was like, did you always know that you were adopted? When did, like, how did they break it to you? She's like, I always knew. I mean, obviously, I think there's a difference because you can tell they're like white Danish and she's Asian. So I think in that respect, of course, they would know. But even at an early age, she's like, my parents told me through stories. And
Wow.
this is what our psychologist told us too, when we were doing the home study. And we've actually bought a storybook as well, or actually someone gifted it to us. And it's called like My Adoption Story. And so I asked my friend, I was like, what's your earliest memory? She's like, I can't tell you like the earliest memory. It's just, it was my bedtime story. So it was always like, mommy bear really wanted like a baby bear, and they prayed and they wished so hard. And like one day, for a place far away, they went to like go find their like missing piece or whatever it is, their baby bear. So she's like, that's the story I was told. And so it's like, it wasn't a discussion. It was just, I grew up knowing that that is my story because it was read to me at bedtime. So that's what we're going to do too. We have that book. A bit early right now. She just wants to eat books. She doesn't really understand. I do read some books to her anyway. But I think maybe like in a couple of months or 6 months from now, I'll probably start reading it to her. Um, but yeah, that's it. And apparently, you're not supposed to just, I mean, the two worst things you can do is one, hide it. Please don't hide it. And by the way, this is something in Pakistani society. This is what I heard a few times. I was just surprised by like sometimes relatives or like well-meaning family, etc. That like, hey, she looks like you, so you don't really have to tell her. Like, make sure that like she doesn't find out, etc. No, like that's terrible. That's, if she doesn't know, then and she finds out one way or another, she's going to feel betrayed.
Mm.
You don't want a child feeling betrayed. And that would be a huge shock, and then that trust is broken. So no, you should tell your child. Number two, what's very common again in South Asian society is they say like, hide it from the child until they're old enough to understand. Don't tell them when they're young, tell them like when they're older. I'm like, that's even worse. You're gonna like, what, when they're like a teenager and going through like puberty and like have like I don't know, probably like their mental health isn't that stable, you're going to sit and tell them like, hey, by the way, you were adopted. Again, they're going to feel like a break of trust. So that
Mm.
is a huge misconception, that you have to hide or that you have to tell them. And because or tell them later, also because I think it encourages people to think that it's something shameful. Like, why would you hide something if you were embarrassed or ashamed of it, right? And then does that mean you're ashamed of your child?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want any of that. This is why I'm very open about it. I'm like, I am not ever going to hide it from anyone. I will speak openly about it. I want her to feel proud of it too. Like, what do you have to be embarrassed about, Nori? Nothing. Like,
And the
none
more
of
you
us
talk
do.
about it, the more you
Yeah,
normalize these
you
conversations.
normalize it.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so the psychologist too was like, some families do, they celebrate adoption day, and they celebrate like birthdays too. Like,
Yeah,
this is
Ah,
the day that you came into our family, so that you celebrate it every year.
that's
And then it's
beautiful.
something that's tied to celebration versus like, we
yeah.
won't
And
talk
also,
about
I
it.
think doing this and talking about it, it
Mm,
might even
yeah,
encourage other people to think about adoption actually might be one of the options that they think about in their
Yeah.
fertility journey, in their family
Yeah.
journey.
I wish more
Um,
people would, really.
I wanted
um,
to, you've been wanting to start a family for so long. And when, you got the call and you literally got 2 days notice, like you've had no time to mentally prepare for
Mhm.
one day living your life as normal, 2 days later you've got a baby in your hands. Like that transition in my
Yeah, it was
mind
wild.
just seems, yes, wild is the right word.
Yeah.
How did you cope with that?
Um, Honestly, we were just so excited. Look, the adoption process took us 3 months in Pakistan.
Hmm,
So it's not like we had a baby and we were back home.
right.
I think we were just running on adrenaline. So I don't think we really had a chance to think about it for 3 months because we were going to court. We did like flights back and forth between Karachi and Lahore. We were going to embassies. We were doing paperwork. We had family in Lahore, so my in-laws lived there, so we went there, and getting, all our like relatives and my in-laws to help with the baby. So I think, yeah, first 3 months we are like, how do we keep her alive, like healthy? I don't think you have time to sit and think about like, oh, how do I feel now? I'm like, no, she just like, how do I do food? How do I do diapers? Um, what's her schedule like? What's the next thing we need to do? So it was go, go, go. I think it only really hit me more when we were back in Dubai, just the three of us by ourselves.
And what happens when you're
And
running a business when you've got to suddenly take this time out? Like, is the business just on hold or is it going on
no,
in the
so
background?
again, the timing worked out, and I feel like the universe works in mysterious ways for a reason. So business started in 2020, 21. Um, And at that time, if I were to get a call for adoption, I would have been a wreck because I was so busy with the business. I was
Yeah.
very like in the day to day and servicing clients myself. I
Hmm.
was doing everything.
Hmm.
But it had gotten to a point where I was not in the day to day. So I have account managers for all the accounts. So if I'm not there, things run. So luckily, in those months, it was a great opportunity for me to stress test and step back too
Yeah.
and let go and be like, if I'm not here, things do just fine. Um, so luckily, the account managers were managing the clients. I have everything digitized on Slack and Notion, and we're all chatting over there. So I just pretty much had my phone on me. I just kept tabs on things, did firefighting if needed, did a meeting if it was needed as well. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And again, your circumstance, if someone is thinking about adopting, know that you will have to take a few months out of your life,
Hmm.
both you and your husband. You cannot do it alone. And yeah, you need enough time away from work. So yes, it is harder if you have like a corporate job. I don't know if someone's going to let you go away for a few months, or one of you has to, or you work remote. But for both of us, we work together in the business. It's flexible. So we could
Yeah.
take off the time we needed and also just manage remotely. Um, so yeah, there's that.
Wow. And Alina, like it has just been such a joy talking to you about something so personal, so close to your heart, and clearly something that's become, so passionately vocal about
Yeah,
now having gone through this journey. And gosh, like what tenacity, what resilience
thank you.
to get to the other side of it, Alina. And I think there is this element of, I don't know when perhaps, if you follow a faith or believe in a higher
Mm-hmm,
power or the
mm-hmm,
universe or whatever it
mm-hmm,
is, like
mm-hmm.
it sometimes when things don't happen when you want them to, there is a blessing in all of that. And often, you
100%.
just can't see it at the time, but once you surrender and then now when you look back, you probably like,
I
everything
believe
happened
that.
in
I
divine
believe it so
order.
much, like we look at Nuri, and by the way, everyone is in love with her. So anyone who is even apprehensive in like the family, it's hilarious that just like both sets of grandparents, everyone are like everyone is obsessed with her. There's like Nuri, 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 bring her to me. Like she's just brought so much love into our lives. I love her personality. She kind of looks like both of us. It's very weird. people will be like, why does she look like half and half, both of you? I'm like, I have no idea how this happened. Um, but I can't imagine having a daughter that's not Nuri. That's the thing. So we're like, I get it now. I get that she specifically, I know it sounds woo woo, but I'm like, specifically, I understand that this child was meant to come to me.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine another child that was not her. Like, she is absolutely perfect for our family, for the both of us, for our grandparents. Like, that's it. So it all makes sense in hindsight. But yes, at the time, didn't know why it was happening to us and couldn't see it.
Yeah. Oh, I honestly, I'm just so pleased for you guys. And I just look forward to, Nuri growing and blossoming
Thank
and
you.
flourishing. And I know she's thriving from the little snippets that I've seen.
Yeah.
And you really have thoroughly embraced motherhood. And just I know you're sharing all the lovely bits. I'm sure there's a lot of hard work in the background as
Yeah.
well. Sleepless
Yeah.
nights and schedules all over the place. But look,
Mhm.
listen, we're really grateful for you taking the time out,
Mhm.
coming and joining us, and sharing what you have. As we wrap up,
Mhm.
um, normally our closing tradition is very simple. Like if there is a particular message that you'd love to share with our listeners, what would that be?
Just consider adoption. If you really want a family, if nothing else is working, open your mind to it, be curious about it, talk to a few people. That's it. If it's not for you, okay, but like, please see it as a valid option.
Yeah.
The love is the same. Um, as I've heard from, I know people who have both had biological children and adopted within the same family, and they're
Yes,
like, I wish someone had told me that my love is the same across both. And
that's
that really changed
beautiful.
my perspective too, and encouraged me to look at adoption when they're like, it's no different. I have both.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to touch on that actually as well. It's not just an option for people maybe who are not able to conceive naturally or having fertility struggles. Actually, there are so many examples,
Mhm.
probably not in the mainstream, but you may find through your networks when you talk to people who actually have both within one family, biological children and adopted
Yeah.
children. And
Mhm.
it's love it doesn't change that love or the dynamics.
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
family unit is a family unit. So
Exactly. Yeah.
um, amazing. Thank you very much, Alina.
Thank you, Tejal. Thank you, Nihal.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy this episode, don't forget to hit follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and to hit subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss a new one. It really helps if you rate and review the show, and if you found this episode valuable, share it with a friend, family member, or colleague. We appreciate your support and we'll catch you next time. Bye bye.